The anti-Trump, anti-ICE protests, riots really, have spread to other blue cities. Let's have a look at what's happening in San Francisco. Yep, the violent protests are spreading to Democrat strongholds like San Francisco, New York, Chicago, and even south to Atlanta.
Hold on. Stop. Over there. Hammer again. Holy
Yes, Atlanta is a blue city. Georgia may be red, but Atlanta is not. Some of the violence we're seeing in LA with the use of fireworks to target police and even police horses is extremely dangerous, life-threatening. Let's bring in international security expert Max Abrahms. Max, some of the violence we're seeing seems opportunistic. Some of it, though, seems very much organised. You are an international security professor, an expert on terrorism. Do you consider some of this violence as acts of domestic terrorism?
I think it is. There's obviously a reluctance by the left to describe this kind of violence as terrorism because terrorism is only done for ideologies that the left doesn't like. But the definition of terrorism certainly could include left-wing political violence. The standard definition that we use is a non-state actor, so we're not talking about a government, who uses violence against a civilian target for political aim. And it's always useful to keep that definition in mind when trying to determine whether we're looking at terrorism. I think that some of this violence certainly looks a lot like terrorism. I think that increasingly the violence is going to be indiscriminate. It's not going to be just directed against ICE or federal buildings or police forces and police cars. I think that these perpetrators pose a genuine danger to the public broadly. They're going to be increasingly setting cars on fire and probably looting stores indiscriminately, anything they can get into, attacking shops. And the reason is that these guys are simply united by anti-American sentiment. So there might be some nuances in terms of their differences, how much are they motivated against ICE or how much specifically against immigration policy, but this is just an opportunity for left-wing extremists to try to exert their control over the country and to intimidate anyone there. So yes, this is domestic extremism and unfortunately, probably increasingly terrorism.
And we saw similar scenes that indiscriminate destruction of public property, private property, the looting, the arson during the BLM riots throughout America. And I would suspect there'd be a lot of the usual suspects involved in this as well. Tulsi Gabbard says this is organised largely. This isn't just some organic gathering of people who are upset. Do you see it that way? Do you see some organisation behind at least some of the violence we're seeing?
It's a combination. I mean, if you look at sort of the gear that these guys have, some of them are clearly professionals. They have fancy face masks, to deal with whatever the authorities are throwing at them. They know how to deal with a gas, canister thrown at them. Some of them we actually know specifically who they are. And they are part of an organization. They're career criminals, if you will, but a lot of it actually is organic. So whenever there is like
Yeah.
some kind of a left-wing extremist cause just blowing up, whatever the extremist cause du jour is on the left, you're going to get a lot of sympathizers who join in. That was true of Black Lives Matter. It's true of the global Antifada movement. That's how these guys roll.
Mm.
So, yeah, probably in the beginning, there's a very important role in terms of like the organization, in the leadership. But then you just have a whole bunch of angry people. You have weak control over the streets, and they're seizing the opportunity to stick it to the United States.
Now, I want to ask about your own personal experience with some of the anti-Semitism, anti-Israel sentiment we have seen on university campuses. You've been personally impacted by that hate and hostility. Tell me what happened at your university when activists took over your class.
Sure. So let's go back. The Hamas terrorist massacre happened on October 7th, 2023. And just 3 days after that, before Israel had a chance to respond, before Israel invaded Gaza, a guy came to my office area in the hallway and put into my hand a flyer and said, do you want to go to this event? And it was a pro-resistance vigil or, event down the street in Cambridge. And so I thought that was a little bit off-putting. He shouldn't have been there, near my office, handing me propaganda 3 days after the attack, but I didn't think too much about it. Then I went to my classroom to teach that evening, and the same guy was there. And he wasn't a student of mine. He was a student of the university where I teach. So he wasn't responding actually to anything that I had said in class in particular. That day's class was actually not sort of relevant to him. I was basically just targeted because I'm a Jewish professor. The topic actually was going to be on right-wing extremism, but I wasn't able to teach until he left and stopped making a commotion. And then finally he just got up and started sort of prancing around the classroom saying that, I was complicit and the university was complicit. And he encouraged my students to walk out of the classroom and to attend this pro-Hamas event in Cambridge. I didn't immediately file a complaint about that, but then he kind of stalked me afterwards, like hanging out by my office. I don't know what I could say on television, but he basically confronted me and told me to F off or whatever to my face. So I was thinking, wow, this is really quite personal. It should be pointed out that I wasn't.
There was
the
a
only
campaign
faculty
of
member.
intimidation because you're a Jewish member of
And so
faculty and you wouldn't come to his.
I did. That's right. And I did end up filing a formal complaint. And I wasn't the only one. Another faculty member had a related experience from the same student. And I didn't know what the status of my complaint was. They wouldn't update me. But then my phone started blowing up during the Northeastern University graduation ceremony because a student had taken it over and had, fake blood on his hands on the stage. Thanks for putting the picture up. Yeah, that's the guy. And so when I saw that,
Wow.
and this made it into the news, I immediately understood that my university, Northeastern University, had clearly not dealt with this student. He had gone to graduation, he had gotten his diploma, and so I was a little bit surprised because that really is pretty egregious to stalk me,
Oh,
to take over the
absolutely.
classroom. Yeah, and again, I wasn't the only professor at Northeastern University to do that. We're both tenured professors. We filed complaints. We did exactly what we were supposed to do. I didn't get into a physical confrontation with the guy. I tried to use the Northeastern University system, and they rewarded him with the diploma and ended up, embarrassing themselves in the national media. I think there are a lot of lessons here. Um, the truth is that the universities are not reforming themselves, even when they have a reason to, even when there is a credible complaint, even when there's a real danger to faculty and students, they refuse to act. And again, I do think it's important to
Well,
note that
Max,
Israel had not even responded yet. So this wasn't like against,
no.
the genocide in Gaza. None of that had happened. This just was an outbreak of support for Hamas in the immediate aftermath of Operation Al-Aqsa Flood.